No one expected the dog to react that way. Not at a funeral. Not beside a coffin. Not on a day when everyone believed the story was already finished. The cemetery was quiet. The kind of quiet that presses against your chest. Clouds hung low, heavy with rain that hadn't yet fallen. Black coats, folded hands, red eyes. They said the officer was gone, pronounced dead. Papers signed, uniform folded, life concluded. Everyone accepted it. Everyone except the dog. The golden retriever stood near the grave, leash loose in a trembling hand. His name was Brian. He hadn't eaten since morning. He hadn't laid down once. His eyes never left the white coffin resting above the open earth. At first, people thought he was grieving. Dogs cry too, they said. Dogs understand loss. But Brian wasn't crying. He was watching. When the priest began to speak, Brian stepped forward. Slow, careful, nose low, ears forward. Someone pulled the leash gently. "Easy, boy." Brian ignored it. He pressed his nose against the side of the coffin, sniffed once, then again. His tail didn't wag. It froze. A low sound escaped his chest. Not a bark, not a whine, a warning. People shifted uncomfortably. "Take the dog back," someone whispered. "He's confused." But Brian wasn't confused. He backed up suddenly, then lunged forward. His paws struck the coffin lid with a dull thud. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The family panicked. "This isn't appropriate," an aunt said, voice shaking. "He doesn't understand." But Brian did. He clawed at the coffin again, harder this time. Wood scraped, metal rattled. The leash slipped from trembling fingers. "Brian!" someone shouted. The dog barked once, sharp, urgent, different. The sound cut through the cemetery like a blade. Silence followed. Then, Brian stopped. He lowered his head, slowly, carefully. He placed his ear against the coffin. People leaned forward without realizing it. Brian's breathing changed, fast, focused, listening. A man near the front laughed nervously. "He thinks he hears something." No one laughed back, because something had changed. Brian pulled away suddenly. He barked again, louder. Then again. His paws slammed against the lid, desperation replacing restraint. Someone stepped forward. "I swear. Did you feel that?" A hand pressed flat against the coffin. Nothing. Then, a faint vibration, barely noticeable, almost imagined. But Brian howled. Fear spread faster than grief ever had. Someone dropped their phone. Someone else crossed themselves. "He's alive," a woman whispered. "No, that's impossible," another replied. But Brian wouldn't stop. He stood over the coffin, body rigid, teeth bared, not in anger, but defiance, as if daring anyone to ignore him. "Open it." The words came from a voice no one expected. The officer's father. His hands shook. "If there's even a chance, we open it." Arguments erupted. It could traumatize everyone. The doctor confirmed, "What if the dog is right?" Brian barked again, short, final. The decision snapped into place. They gripped the coffin lid. Every movement felt wrong. Every second felt stolen from fate. The lid lifted an inch. Nothing. Another inch. Then, a sound. Not loud. Not dramatic. A breath. Screams shattered the air. Hands rushed in. Someone shouted for an ambulance. Another fell to their knees. Inside the coffin, the officer's chest moved, barely, but undeniably alive. Brian jumped in before anyone could stop him. He licked the man's face wildly, whining, tail finally wagging like it had been waiting for permission. The officer's fingers twitched, then curled weakly into fur. Chaos followed. Rain finally fell, soaking black clothes and open earth, but no one noticed, because death had just been interrupted. At the hospital, doctors said the same thing over and over. If you'd waited another few minutes, he wouldn't have survived. The cause? A rare condition, mistaken for death, heartbeat too slow to detect. Everyone missed it, except the dog. Brian never left the bedside, not during machines, not during tests, not during the long hours of recovery. When the officer finally opened his eyes, the first thing he saw wasn't a ceiling. It was fur, warm, familiar. Later, the doctor said something that no one forgot. "Dogs don't question paperwork," he said quietly. "They trust instinct." Brian saved a life. Not because he was trained, not because he was special, but because he refused to accept a lie. Sometimes, love doesn't cry quietly. Sometimes, it barks, it claws, it refuses to walk away. And sometimes, it brings someone back from the grave. Adopt, trust instinct, and never ignore the one who refuses to let go.